Hello, everyone. Welcome. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. I am back with another design team project for the Not Too Shabby shop. For my card project, I chose a darling stamp set from ccdesigns, and this one is called Snowy Bears. I just love this polar bear that I'm stamping up. His expression is just so droll. I just love it. This stamp set is available at the Not Too Shabby shop, as well as a lot of other darling CC Design stamps. I'll have the link to the shop below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your order at the shop. I stamped the bear on a piece of Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock, and I used some nice dye ink from MFT. It's called Extreme Black ink. Great for using with your Copic markers, which is what I'm doing in this video. So I'm going to sketch in a little background behind my polar bear, and I need to draw in a pond for him to skate on, a frozen pond. I stamped my image again onto a piece of masking paper. I want to protect my image while I work on the background. I'm going to start with some ink blending with some Distress Oxide inks, and I'm putting little pieces of masking tape down to protect my mountains. I'm cutting them up into little pieces and rounding some of the edges. I'll have all of the products that I'm using listed below and over at my blog. So I pulled out Tattered Rose and Squeezed Lemonade Distress Oxides, and I'm going to blend them on with some makeup brushes. I just bought these on Amazon for $10. They do a great job. And I'm just putting bits of color here and there, little patches. I want it to look like a pretty sunrise. Now I can put in a little bit of squeezed lemonade, and it just ends up looking like a kind of cloudy background with the sun peeking through the pink clouds. I'll wipe down my work mat, and now I can peel off the masks over the mountains. And I just love how sharp and white that looks. Next, I'm going to work on the mountains. I'm going to pull out a few Copic markers for this. They're mostly going to be snow-capped mountains, but I need to add a few little shadows, and I'm using some blue markers to do this. This needs little touches here and there. You don't want to overdo it. These do look like purple markers, but they are actually blue. It's the B60 and B63. I use these a lot for purple. I quickly used my kneaded eraser to erase some of the pencil lines so it doesn't show through my coloring. And now I'm going to work on the snowbank next to the pond. I'm using some more blues for this. These are the B000s. And then I'm adding some shadows underneath my bear and some different colors of blue for the frozen pond. After I color in my bear, I come back and add a little more color to the frozen pond. I'm using a B41 to put some shadows on the edge of the snowbank, where the snowbank meets the ice. And now I can start in on my bear. And I'm using some C markers for this, mostly just putting the gray colors where the shadows are. After the ink has dried on my bear, I do come back and add some flick marks just to provide the appearance of texture on his fur. I also go back and forth adding to the background as needed, just to darken it up a little bit and add more details. I worked on this project throughout the course of a week, and I would let it sit, and then I'd come back and look at it and add more details. It was just a fun project. I'm adding a little more of the C's to his nose, and then to add a highlight, I'm using a white jelly roll pen. I'm adding a few flick marks here for his fur. And then I can start in on coloring his cute coat and his hat. I'm going to be using some greens and reds for this. Didn't want it to look too Christmassy, but I had to color in the trees green. But I think with the pink sky and the blues of the scene behind him, it saves it from looking too Christmassy. The red Copic markers I use a lot are the R22, 24, and 39. Of course, the 39 is the darkest, so I'm just going in with some shadows for that. These three colors help to provide a lot of contrast on his jacket. I'm leaving areas of his jacket white, but I'll come in with some gray markers to add shadows. On his hat, too, I'm going to leave one of the stripes white. So this is my first ccdesigns stamp I've ever had. And I was looking on Jamie's Not Too Shabby shop, and she has a lot of them in her shop. I'm definitely going to be going back for more because the images are all so darling. I just love them. So I'm pulling some of the colors from the sky into the ice, and it just adds a cute touch, I think, to the overall picture here. Just added a little needed color at the bottom. And then I darken the shadow under my polar bear. Once I've completed my coloring, I like to put him back in my Mini Misty and re-stamp him just to freshen up the lines. It adds a lot to the project, just crisps everything up. For the sentiment, I'm going to stamp it onto a piece of black cardstock, and I'm heat embossing this with some white embossing powder. I really love this embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. It's called Alabaster White. I allow my heat tool to heat up for a minute, and then I bring that to the paper, and it melts really fast. I love this sentiment. It says, "You're one of my coolest friends," and I thought it was just perfect to go with this polar bear. He looks so confident, doesn't he? At first, I was going to adhere that down flat onto my card, but I decided to pop it up with some foam squares. They're not actually squares, are they? I should say they're foam rectangles. And then I can peel off the release paper, and I'm just going to adhere that onto the bottom of my card. It was hard to know where to place this, and it kind of covered up the colors that I added to the pond. So I'm coming back with my Copic markers just to add more colors above it, so it shows up. And then I can just press that into place and trim off the excess with my long scissors. And I debated trimming this down or cutting it out with a faux stitched die, but I just liked it the way it was, so I just added it right onto a white card base. I'm coming in with my white gel pen again to add highlights onto his jacket and hat, and that completes this card. This stamp set would be great to use for a Valentine's Day card or even just a winter greeting card. I just love how it turned out. Thanks for joining me, my crafty friends. I hope you were inspired and that you get a chance to create some wonderful greeting cards of your own. I'll be back with another video very soon. Take care, everyone. Bye.